And we're coming in hot off of the radio show. This is now the bonus edition of the Automotive ADHD show. I am Matt West, hanging out with you, talking cars. Had a loaded radio show for you earlier today. And if you missed that on the air, you can now catch the podcast version of that, of course, online, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, wherever. Fine shows. And, mine are downloaded. And we talked all about automotive tariffs and how those are going into effect now. 25%, by the way. So I gave you my predictions on what that'll do to not only the new car market, but the used car market. And we talked about some of what I think would, certain things have to happen for these tariffs to actually work and for people to actually bear the cost of it without having a lot of trouble, without essentially rioting. A lot of things have to happen the right way for this to work, the way the administration, I think, wants it to work. And we talked about all of that on the radio show. And we talked about how Corvettes, the ZR1, if you sell one now, they are going to void your warranty. And I actually support this. Yeah, I do. I totally support this. So you're going to have to, if you want to hear all of that, tune into the podcast now of the radio show. If you're new to the show, if this is your first time hearing it, I do a radio show every week. I talk about cars. It's on AM 1460, The Answer in Colorado Springs, Saturday morning at 9 a.m. But of course, you're right here with me on the podcast. Also, want to mention this 24-karat gold-plated Icon ratchet. Could be yours if you send car sounds to me at facebook.com/automotive ADHD. Record some sounds of your car, send them in, and you'll notice if you go listen to the radio show, I play people's car sounds on there. It's a lot of fun. I live vicariously through your car sounds because, mine doesn't run. So actually, both of mine don't. Actually, a lot of mine don't run. So, all right. Got to get into this. I ran out of time on the radio show to talk about this, which is why I do these bonus shows. Really, I do these just because I spent too much time yakking about stupid things like gold-plated ratchets on the radio to to get to it. But there's a TikToker, goes by the name of Sydney Kidney Bean. I assume her name is Sydney. I don't know if middle name Kidney, last name Bean. Not sure. Not sure on that. First name is probably Sydney. She's a TikToker. And she bought a car from Carvana. A lot of us don't like Carvana. A lot of us don't. And I think that's because of the way Carvana does business. That's also because of the black eye Carvana has had for years when it comes to mishandling titles. People have purchased cars from Carvana. There have been stories of this all throughout the past, several years now at this point. And, they're not getting their titles. The cars aren't arriving in the way that's described. They're having all sorts of issues. Not to mention the fact that it's like it's supposed to be like a online car buying experience. If you're not familiar with Carvana, it's an online buying experience, and you buy a car online and they deliver it to your house. I appreciate that it is a different take on the car dealership. I appreciate that. I think car dealerships are still operating in the last century. I really do. Now granted, it's gotten a little better. When I was in college, I spent some time working at a car dealership. I was probably the worst car salesman in the world, and that's because I actually like cars, and I'm a car guy. I'm a car enthusiast, and that's actually, I think, to your disadvantage when you're selling cars, because you know how stupid and garbage some of the stuff you're selling is, but you really got to pretend that you love it and that you like it. So I did not make for a very good car salesman. I sold some cars, and it was fine. But even then, the dealership at the time, and we're pushing on, I guess, more than 10 years now. This was somewhere in that 10-year ballpark, I want to say. And the dealership had, and this was, websites and buying cars online and doing all your research online had already been well established here. I mean, really, even for, maybe another 10 years more than that, essentially. And the issue is the car dealership operated as if people couldn't view cars online. They had this idea of, you've got an up. An up is a customer walking. Okay, you got this up coming up here. And an up coming up. You've got an up. And, okay, what's your name? Hi, I'm so-and-so. Oh, great. What do you do for a living, so-and-so? What are you looking for? Do you have a family? You ask these questions. You break the ice a bit. You get to know them. And then you're like, well, let me find a car that suits your needs. Step right this way. It's this 1950s perception of being a car salesman. That was still present. Here's the problem. The management was pushing that. They trained their salespeople to operate in this way. And in reality, every customer coming in who was under the age of 60, and even some of the older ones at this point, had jumped on the bandwagon of, hey, walk into the dealership. Great. I've got the stock number I want. I've already read all the reviews of it. I test drove one at another dealer. I see you got one on the lot. Let's work out a deal. Great. By the way, I love customers when I did it. I did love customers who did that. You come in, you're prepared, you're ready to go. And then they're even like, yeah, I already got financing pre-approved. We're good to go. Just let's talk some numbers. Let's make sure everything's good. And I'll drive out of here today. That was great. That made my job easy. But the problem was the model being issued by the dealership, if you will, the management, it really didn't support that. Again, they were operating on this 1950s principle of car sales. And that's even more so now in 2025. Cars, great example. My Subaru, I bought my 2024 WRX. I walked into the dealer. I already knew what I wanted. I already had my financing done. Everything was done. I got to be that customer now who came in even with the stock number. Okay. Came in, walked in. Hey, I got this one. Everything's sorted out. I'd like to test drive it real quick. Let's go talk some numbers. And that was it. And the thing is, more and more of your customers are going to be that way. Yes, there's some that aren't as car buying savvy, but even then, they're coming in. They've already watched dozens of YouTube reviews. They already know, okay, I need a mid-size SUV. Let me go read reviews. Let me go look at this. And then I'll find one on your website and we'll come in and take a look at it. And if I don't like your numbers, I'll go to the dealer across the street. They've also got one for 10 grand less, but it's used. Okay. Right? That's the world we live in. Carvana, I appreciate the fact that Carvana is catering to that. They list their cars online. You say, aha, I would like that one, please. You click buy. A tow truck comes up, a flatbed, fancy looking branded Carvana flatbed, drives up and delivers the car to you. And then you might say, well, how can I test drive it if it's here? You get a period of time that you get to drive it. You do all the paperwork, you buy it, but there's this idea of a guarantee that you can return it if you don't like it, if something's wrong. And in many cases, something is wrong, as it turns out, with Carvana cars. So I appreciate the principle. I appreciate the concept. The problem is that I think Carvana as a business is kind of, I don't think they're executing that concept as well as they could have, especially from a business perspective. And they have introduced a new, probably in response to the slew of titling issues that they have been accused of, they've implemented a new system where it's a instant title, basically. It's like 60 seconds. It's all digital. It's all automated. You buy the car and it's done. Now, Carvana, bear in mind, also has physical locations. And if you live in a bigger city, you've probably seen them. Here in Colorado, we've got one just if you're heading up northbound on I-25 in Denver. You'll see it if you go far enough north. You will pass it. And it's a giant clear building with a bunch of cars in it. And it's got this cool car elevator. It is a car dealership, but vertically stacked. Again, a cool concept if it worked correctly. And in this case, it absolutely didn't work correctly. On the contrary, actually, it very much didn't work correctly. But in this case, to the buyer's benefit, I'm going to roll a clip here. This is from Miss Sydney Kidney Bean on TikTok. And here's what happened. I got an auto loan with Bank of America, and they sent me a letter today asking me to please immediately send them a copy of my title application. I thought that was so weird because I have had my title for like months now, and I thought that they knew that. But apparently they have no record of it at all. So I pulled out the title itself and the bill of sale, and I started looking over everything. I bought the car through Carvana, and I know people are going to have a problem with that, but honestly, lovely experience, especially now. Now that I realized they just handed me a free car. Because when I looked over this paperwork, I realized that at no point did they put a lien holder on it. It is not on the bill of sale, and it is not on the title. And it only took 60 seconds, if that. And they were like, wow, that was so fast. Normally we have a bunch of paperwork and things to go over and there's mail involved, but now we're all done.
I'll tell you what, it was the easiest titling process that I've ever heard of. Not only did he on the bill of sale recognize that I am the only owner of the vehicle, that there are no liens on it at all, no loans, nothing, but I also received confirmation from the state. I have the actual title saying I am clear and free of all liens and loans.
So if you purchased a car, I'm going to distill this down very simply. If you purchased a car with a loan, you used a bank loan, whether it's through the dealership or your own bank, and you just suddenly got the title, even though you haven't probably paid your first payment on the loan, something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Now, is it wrong against you? Not really. It is kind of wrong in your favor. Think of it like a monopoly board. Bank error in your favor. Withdraw a free car. Now, granted, to Sydney Kidney Beans' point here, I didn't play her entire video because it was a little long, and she did say at the end of her video, "I'm going to do the right thing, though. I'm gonna let everyone know. I'm gonna let the bank know. I'm gonna let the dealership know. We'll figure it out. I'm gonna do it the right way." And so good on her. She is a TikToker with some morals. In fact, she actually might be the first one. This might be TikTok might be turning a new leaf. I think she's the first one with any sense of common sense, actually. This is staggering, by the way. Of course, you can find the Automotive ADHD Show at Automotive ADHD Show on TikTok. Anyway, so she's going to do the right thing here. She's going to do all of that. But she did say later on, is she going to go too much effort to do it? She's like, no, it's not my problem. Frankly, it's not my problem. She's going to let them know, and they're going to figure it out. And so here's the thing. This is Carvana. This is totally Carvana. This has got Carvana written all over it. Because, okay, they implement a new system. Great. It doesn't work. Gives the title to the owner. Well, not the owner, but the person who pulled out the loan, essentially. And the lien holder goes, i.e. the bank, who just paid this money for the car. The bank goes, well, gosh, that $30,000 car, we just paid $30,000 for it. We should get the title. Then you pay us back. You finish the loan. And by the time you're done with the loan and we collect our 6 million % interest, then we'll give you the title. That's normally how this works. But they're sitting there going, she got the title. So if she had even that much more of a evil streak in her, you could say, if it's just that little bit, she could literally and perhaps legally sell that car. Say it's 30 grand. She didn't say how much it cost. Say it's 30 grand. She got a loan for it. Sell the car and then pocket the 30 grand and just default on the loan, because why would you pay it? There's no collateral at that point. I'm glad she's not doing that. I'm glad she's actually doing the right thing. But technically speaking, she could do that. Now, is it legal? Yeah, she's got the title. Would you not incur some sort of civil lawsuit after the fact? You probably would. You probably would, actually. So it's probably wise in her case not to do it. Though knowing how the internet can be, I'm surprised. I'm amazed that this happened to such an upstanding citizen as Miss Sydney Kidney Bean. Because if it had been any other TikToker anywhere, that car would be gone in an instant. Do you remember the TikTok ATM hack thing that people were doing? That you could take a check, okay, and this spread all over TikTok. You could take a check, deposit it at your ATM, and most of the time, the bank, like if you actually deposit the physical check at the ATM, it will let you withdraw a portion of that check. It doesn't always let you cash the whole check until that obviously clears on the back end, but you could withdraw a portion of that. Say it's $1,000 check, it lets you withdraw $200. So people were writing fake checks, depositing them in the ATM. The ATM lets them withdraw $200 before it clears, just as a goodwill type thing. And then they take the $200, the check bounces, and then they go and they do it again at another bank and another bank and another bank until, I guess, eventually there's no bank that will write them that'll make an account with them until they get blacklisted by all of the banks. And so that's the sort of trend that happens on TikTok. And most of the users went and did that. And then, by the way, they were all surprised when the banks got together and said, hey, we need that money back and we're filing some sort of civil action against you to get that money back. And we may even file a criminal action against you to get that money back. And everyone went, what? What do you mean this is criminal? I just saw it on TikTok. Yeah, not everything you see on TikTok is a good idea, for the record, except if you're on my page, by the way, at Automotive ADHD Show. It should be, I think it's actually at Automotive ADHD Podcast. Joke's on me. I don't even know what my own TikTok is. I do post on there, though, with various musings working on cars and doing stuff not in front of the microphone here. So anyway, I think that Carvana probably is going to learn their lesson on this. Again, I commend them for the principle. I also even commend them for the principle of this new electronic way of processing a title. It is so slow processing titles and paperwork still. We live in 2025. And I'll tell another story here because we're on the podcast. I don't have a time constraint here. And I'll tell you another story. And this is very recent with my new Subaru. I went to go register my new Subaru because my 60-day temp tag was expiring. So I go to the DMV and they tell me that, well, we can't register your car because the dealership hasn't finished the paperwork. And I go, well, it's been 60 days. Well, yeah, the dealership just hasn't finished the paperwork. They're a little slow on it. I go, well, can I register my car? No, you can't register the car. And then they say, I go, all right, can I call the dealership right now? Get the paperwork. They'll email it to you or fine. They'll even fax it to you. Okay. All right. And they said, yeah, no, we need them to mail it to us with certified mail. We need the original copies, certified mail. Why? We live in this amazing era. We have all of these amazing innovations of modern technology. We live in the future practically. I'm talking to you here on the internet from my garage, and I just did a radio show from my garage, okay? And I have a Honda that doesn't run. Well, that doesn't really support my point. Ignore the Honda. But we live in this world of technological marvel. There's flying machines. There's stuff known as cryptocurrency. There's all of this amazing technology, the internet. AI is going to take over the universe here shortly. I assume that'll be in the next maybe week or two that the AI apocalypse will be coming and the Terminators. It's all going to happen. And we have Terminators, and yet we can't get a stupid car registration done because the DMV needs the paperwork that the dealership didn't fill out in time, and they need it mailed to them, the physical copy. Why? I mean, come on. And so here comes Carvana, again, with a good take on this. Hey, let's simplify that process. Let's electronify all of it. Let's electronify. That's a cool word. Let's do that. And I'm going to use that now, electronify stuff. I think the correct word is actually electrify. But anyway, so they're going to do that. They're going to make this process simple. I like that. Because they're Carvana, though, they messed it up. Because they're Carvana. And again, it goes to show one of the many reasons why I don't foresee myself purchasing a car on Carvana anytime soon. Because also if I buy the car in cash, so here's the problem. Maybe they're actually overcorrecting because previously they had an issue where they weren't giving people titles who had bought the cars outright. So you buy the car in cash, Carvana just lost the title. In fact, there was even arguments in some of these cases that happened that Carvana never had the title in the first place. So how did they sell the car then if they didn't own the car? They never had the title. Good question. They're Carvana. That's what they do. So they can't give you the title because you bought the car, but they didn't actually have the means, the legal means to sell the car to you. So now you paid for a car that, by the way, you can't register at all. There's a limit to how many new temp tags they'll give you. In my case, the DMV, I had to pay for it. Now I'm going to get that dealership to reimburse me for it. But I had to pay for a new temp tag that gives me another 60 days. Not a problem. We'll figure it out. But in Carvana's case, they never have the title. They never had it. They couldn't give it to you if they wanted to. There is a limit to the temp tags which you can buy from the state. They'll eventually say, no more temp tags. No. You've had a few of them. Go figure this out. You now have a paperweight of a car you can't drive. So that's the problem Carvana has had in the past. The problem now, they go, all right. We've got this problem. We're not getting titles to people who should be getting titles. Let's fix that. Let's revolutionize how we do titles. And let's do this whole entire system that streamlines this, really brings the titling process into the 21st century. Yeah, except they did it too much. They over 21st century the title process, and now they're giving people titles who shouldn't have the titles. You see, they can't win at all. I got a message for Carvana. Take the thing that you did before, the not giving people titles part, and the thing you did now, which is giving people titles who shouldn't actually have the title, and just meet that in the middle. Take that, meet it in the middle, and I think everything will work. But anyway, it's Carvana. It'll never happen. Carvana's like the Hertz rental car of car dealerships. Don't even get me started on Hertz. So anyway, perhaps you might see this and say, ooh, I don't want to buy a car from Carvana. Or perhaps you're not as upstanding of a person as Miss Sydney Kidney Bean. In case you're not, hey, no judgment. You're listening to my show. I mean, you're fine by my book. I don't care what you do. As long as you stay subscribed to the show and give it a rating on Spotify, 6 stars, by the way. But maybe you're saying, I will go buy a car from Carvana. How about that? Aha. You see, because they'll mess up my title and then I'll get a free car. If you do that, I can neither endorse your actions nor actually say after the fact that I told you to do that, because I didn't tell you to do that. I definitely didn't tell you to do that. If you do that and you get in trouble, I don't think in a court for one, I don't want to get pulled into the court as a witness. I don't. I really don't. I have better things to do. I need to get my S2000, which again you can see behind me, actually running and driving properly. And then I've got this A86 that doesn't run anymore. So I got to fix that now. So yeah, I don't have time to go to court and testify for or against you in either capacity. I don't have time for that. So, and I frankly don't want to get involved. And also if the judge calls me to the witness stand and it's not going to end well actually for either of us. Cause they'll say, why is this dude who talks about cars on the internet your witness? Why is he that? Well, anyway, so do this or don't do this. I would probably recommend not doing it. You probably don't want to get sued. But you know what? If you buy a car from Carvana, or if you have bought a car from Carvana, let me know. Comment on this podcast, on this video. What has your experience been with Carvana? I have avoided Carvana like the plague, even though I haven't personally had an experience. I've just observed so many other people's negative experiences. You see, I am sometimes capable of learning from other people's actions rather than my own. Sometimes, unless it's working on my own cars. Then I do stupid stuff so you don't have to, actually. But let me know your thoughts. Facebook.com/AutomotiveADHD. Also, Automotive ADHD on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and more. Thanks for joining me on this bonus edition of the podcast. Again, if this is your first time here, go check out the podcast of my radio show. Or if you're local to Colorado, listen to it live Saturday mornings at 9 a.m., AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next week.